I'm going to say something today that most men my age won't admit. Not in public, not to their friends, not even to themselves. I don't let anyone move into my home. Not a girlfriend, not a partner, not anyone. And before you judge me, before you call me cold or damaged or afraid, I want you to sit with me for a few minutes. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't about bitterness. It isn't about being broken. It's about something much more powerful than that. It's about a man who lost everything, rebuilt himself from nothing, and finally, learned what peace actually costs. I wasn't always like this. There was a version of me that believed in everything. Marriage, family, the house with the yard, the whole picture. I got married young, full of hope, full of plans. And for years, decades, I showed up. I worked long hours, sometimes 2 jobs. I provided. I missed birthdays because of deadlines.
I skipped vacations because the money was needed elsewhere. I sacrificed sleep, health, friendships, because that's what I thought being a man meant. You hold everything together. You don't complain. You don't break. Nobody ever told me that you can spend 30 years building a life and lose it in what feels like a single afternoon. The marriage didn't end in a fight. It ended slowly, in silences, in distance, in 2 people realizing they'd grown into strangers while sharing the same bed. And when it was finally over, the house went. The savings split. The routines, the things I didn't even know I was attached to, gone. At 52 years old, I was sitting alone in a rented apartment with a mattress on the floor and a box of things I'd grabbed on my way out. Nobody prepares you for that moment. Nobody tells you what it actually feels like to look around a room that echoes and realize that everything you worked for is just gone. But here's what I need you to understand. I didn't stay on that mattress. I got up. Not right away. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have nights where I just stared at the ceiling. Nights where the silence wasn't peaceful. It was crushing. Nights where I wondered if I'd made every wrong choice, or if the wrong choices had just been made for me. But slowly, week by week, month by month, I started rebuilding. And here's the thing. Nobody tells you about rebuilding after loss. You don't build the same thing again. You can't, because you're not the same person. The man who built that first life, he's gone. And the man doing the rebuilding, he sees things differently. He doesn't rush. He doesn't fill empty space just to avoid feeling it. He learns to sit with himself and actually like who he finds there. I decorated my apartment exactly how I wanted. No compromises. No, well, she doesn't like that color, or let's move this furniture. My space, my rules, my peace. I started cooking again, really cooking, learning recipes I never had time for. I started waking up without an alarm, reading books I'd bought years ago and never opened, going for long walks with no destination. And somewhere in all of that, I found something I hadn't felt in decades. Contentment. Real, quiet, nobody can take this from me contentment. And that's when I started to understand that what I'd been calling sacrifice for 30 years was actually just loss. Slow, invisible, uncelebrated loss. And then I met someone. You know how it is. You're not looking. You've told yourself 100 times you're done with all of it. And then someone walks into your orbit and just fits. She was easy to talk to. No games, no drama. Smart, funny, warm. Being around her felt like breathing easy. And for the first time in years, I thought, maybe Maybe there's something real here. Maybe I was wrong to close the door so tightly. We dated. Months went by. Good months. Real conversations. Real laughter. And then one evening over dinner, she looked at me and asked, "Why don't we just move in together?" She said it casually, like it was the obvious next step. And a few years earlier, it would have been. I would have said yes before she finished the sentence. But something was different this time. I paused. And in that pause was everything I'd learned the hard way. See, here's what people don't understand about living alone after a long relationship. It's not lonely, not really. Or it starts out that way. But if you stay in it long enough, honestly enough, it transforms into something nobody warns you about. You learn your own rhythm. You wake up and move through your morning at your pace. No one needs breakfast made. No negotiation about the thermostat. No, can you turn that down? Just you and your coffee. And however much silence you want. And that rhythm becomes your foundation. It becomes the thing that holds everything else up. Your health, your thinking, your work, your creativity. All of it rests on whether your inner life is stable. Now, the moment someone moves in, it doesn't have to go badly. She doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to fight. But something shifts. Something always shifts. Because now there are two rhythms in one space, and one of them, usually yours, starts bending. The mornings feel different. The evenings feel different. Small decisions you used to make automatically now require a conversation. And over time, those conversations can feel like negotiations, and negotiations can feel like weight. Now add the financial layer. I'm not talking about gold diggers. I'm not talking about anyone with bad intentions. I'm talking about the natural economics of shared life. Can you grab this? I'll get it next time. Do you mind covering this month? These aren't malicious moments. They're human moments. But patterns form quietly, and before you know it, the balance has shifted. And you're carrying more than you planned to. Again. And then there's the final piece. The one nobody wants to say out loud. What if it doesn't work? Because relationships end. Even good ones. Even ones with good people. If you're living separately and it ends, it hurts. Deeply. But it's clean. You grieve. You heal. You move on. But if you're living together, now someone needs to move out. Now there are logistics, leases, belongings, awkward timelines. Now the end of love becomes a project. And at this stage of my life, I am not willing to rebuild again from rubble. Not because I can't, but because I finally know what I'm protecting. Let me be honest with you about something. This isn't fear. I want to say that clearly, because I know how it sounds. He's scared. He's damaged. He just hasn't met the right person. No. Fear is when you don't understand the risk and run anyway. What I have is different. I understand the risk completely. I've lived it. I've paid for it. And I've made a clear-eyed, fully conscious choice. There's a word for that. It's called wisdom. Here's what I know about love at this stage of life. Proximity isn't intimacy. Sharing a mortgage isn't the same as sharing a life. And sometimes, the healthiest thing two people can do is choose each other every single day without the obligation of shared walls forcing them to stay. I see her. We spend real time together. We talk. We laugh. We matter to each other. And then I come home to my space, my silence, my rhythm. And I am a better man in that relationship because I haven't disappeared inside of it. Now I want to talk to whoever this is landing for. Maybe you're in your 50s or 60s. Maybe you rebuilt after something painful. Maybe you understand this in your bones. Or maybe you're younger, and this sounds foreign to you. How can you be in a relationship but not live together? Doesn't that mean you're not fully committed? I want to flip that question. What if full commitment doesn't require full merger? What if two whole people, who have both done the work on themselves, who both know who they are, can love each other more deeply? Because neither one has had to shrink to fit. I've seen it. Couples who live separately for years, deeply in love, deeply committed, choosing each other every day, not trapped together. Choosing. That's what I want. Not less love. More intentional love. So let me leave you with this. After 60 years of living, after building, losing, and rebuilding, I've come to believe something simple. Peace is not a luxury. It is the foundation. And protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Not just for you, but for everyone you love. Because a man who has lost himself cannot truly give himself to anyone. And a man who has found himself, that man has something real to offer. Not just presence. Now I want to hear from you. Not just a warm body in a shared space, but clarity, depth, intention. So no, I don't let anyone move in, and I sleep well because of it. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think sharing a home brings two people closer? Or does it slowly replace the relationship with logistics? Let me know in the comments below.